Scanning. Identity authorized. Welcome to the Secret Superhero Club Podcast Network.
This week on the ASP, I am joined by friend of the show, Tony Simonetta, as we talk about his work at Rooster Teeth and all of the Disney parks. Welcome, everybody, to the Animation Station Podcast, episode 131. My name is Josh, and joining me today is our Disney correspondent, Tony Simonetta. How's it going, Tony?
So far, so good. All the way down in Austin, Texas, we're somehow going to be at 29 degrees tonight, so I'm just keeping warm by the light of the computer.
Did you guys get the snow?
No snow, just cold. But
we got the snow last night into this morning, so it's coming towards you.
Yeah, we may get the thinnest of ice on our roads, which shuts everything down here. So I'm hoping for an ice day.
Oh man, I see. Ice days, like I would rather have the snow days because you can at least drive through snow. Ice, It's one of those where it's like, no.
Yeah, just Texas isn't really set up for the infrastructure of dealing with that. Everyone just doesn't know how to salt, and we just kind of sit in our houses and look outside and take pictures of the ice that accumulated on the handrails and hashtag it like snowpocalypse. So Texas is a weird place.
Oh man. And by the way, everybody, this episode is brought to you by Funimation Entertainment, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on and how you can get 2 free weeks of anime. So, Tony,
yes.
First off, we're coming off, last week was Extra Life, so I want to give a big shout out to everybody down at Rooster Teeth, and I saw, you were posting some social media pictures. You were there.
I was there for a lot of it. I won't claim to be one of the people that was there for all 24 hours. So kind of spent the morning with my family. I went in after lunch. And I was there from about 2 to about 2 a.m. So I did about 12 hours worth. And then I came home and ate and slept and washed like a human and watched everyone else that was there at the studios kind of doing their thing and raising money. And it was just crazy to see these people do what they do.
Mm-hmm. So you were there at 2 till 2, so you got to remind me, because I know that was during the 2 spooky hour when they actually hit their 1.25 million. Were you there for that?
I had just got in my car. I was just leaving. I had to get home. I was fading fast. There was many different drinks and things going on, and I pushed it too hard too early, and I had to get home.
Oh man. Well, congrats to everybody there. So I know they blew $1 million real quick.
Yeah.
They were done with that before 10.
Yeah.
And then they hit that the 0.25. And did they end with 1.5? Because I'm going to include Jeremy's little 18-hour stream that he did after that.
I think it was just shy. I think it's still in the 1.4 range.
Gotcha. Well, again, congrats to everybody there, raising a lot of good money for charity. So, yeah, congrats to everybody all around.
Yes, thanks.
Now, so Tony, you've been working at Rooster Teeth for a few years now.
Yeah, it's about 2.5.
2.5, so almost a few. A couple and some change years. So you've been working there. What has been one of your favorite things to work on while you're there? Because you work in the design team, so you get to do you get to help work on a bunch of that wonderful work. So what's one of your favorite things to design? If you're allowed to talk about it.
No, yeah. And I think the thing that's one of my favorites is something I didn't actually design. But as part of my interview, when I was interviewing for the job to get it, they were asking things about, what kind of merchandise would you like to see us sell? Or what kind of merchandise do we not have? And I'm kind of a tiki collector. And I was like, man, I'd really like it if there were Rooster Teeth tiki mugs. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a cool answer. It kind of got us into talking about where I'd lived and different things. And so I got hired as a marketing designer, and I was there for about 6 or 7 months as the marketing designer before I moved over to the merchandise product team and became a product designer. And then I'm now the lead of the product design team. So I finally had enough power to put a tiki mug on the books. So I got one of the designers on our team who's way more talented than I am to kind of draw these tiki mugs, and I worked with the vendors to get them made. So just seeing them finally arrive was kind of one of the best feelings I've had as a designer at Rooster Teeth, just getting that from start to finish, finally making it happen.
Nice. Because I know that they had been talking about, like on the RT podcast, they had been talking about the tiki mugs. And I was like, okay, I want to see these tiki mugs when they come out. And then I saw them and I was like, oh man, those are really sexy. Those are some cool looking tiki mugs.
Yeah, they were great. There was a little hiccup at the end, just getting them back into the country with customs. And everyone was so hyped on them that we were kind of just, they're coming, we promise, they're coming. So they kind of had vanished into the ether of customs. But when they made it out the other end, they sold pretty quickly. So everyone else was also as excited as I was, apparently.
And, congrats, you made it into another Achievement Hunter video, so congrats there.
Oh, where was I at?
You were in the Jeff Moonball one. It just came out today.
Like, when he was walking around with his box head.
He was walking around with the box. They went to the design team and was like, I wonder if Tony... But they opened the door. I'm like, there he is. I saw your desk.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment. There's I'm probably in the background of who knows how many things as people walk around campus, just cameras rolling all the time.
I'm wondering, you're wearing like 17 layers of clothing, though. You've got like it looked like a hoodie and then like a camo jacket on, and I'm like, bro, it's Austin. You shouldn't be wearing a camo jacket.
That's another thing. I'm a big fan of a lot of clothes. So like sometimes when it gets a little bit cold, like it gets cold in Austin, like I was just talking about, but it's so rarely and for such a short amount of time. I only have so many days to wear all my jackets. So sometimes you got to wear more than one before it gets to be 90 degrees again.
So even if you sweat a little bit, it's like it's worth it because I got to wear my jacket.
Yes.
Now, Tony, the reason that I wanted to have you on is I have been watching a lot of videos about the multiple Disneylands. So, I mean, I've been watching stuff from like Defunct Land, which does like a bunch of stuff for like Disney rides and attractions from years ago that have been kind of like deleted and like removed. And the one that I just watched that kind of got me thinking was of, you know what, I know Tony's been to some of these places, so maybe we can get him on. They were talking, it was one that was in Tokyo Disney, and it was like Cinderella's dungeon castle thing. And it was all based on Black Cauldron.
Oh,
which is in my opinion, a very underrated Disney movie that nobody likes.
I probably need to watch it again. Like I remember the cover of the book. I remember reading it. I can see the cover of the VHS and the characters, but I couldn't tell you what happens. So I think this will be the catalyst for me to go fire that up.
Oh yeah, I recommend it. I know people that like the story. It's very much like a D&D type of movie. That's what it all is. It's like a very D&D adventure. Like it all wraps up very neatly at the end. So it's like, oh, this could be a good one-shot campaign if someone was to make that. And that got me talking. Like that got me thinking because that went from like 1984, which was before the movie came out, and it ran until 2006. And I was like, I didn't know that people even remembered the Black Cauldron back in 2006. And so that got me on more of a kick, and I was thinking, who do I know who's been to the majority of the Disney parks? And I remember when we met the first time in Anaheim for the D23 convention, we had talked and you had been to the majority of the parks. So I was like, you know what? Let's get Tony on and let's just talk about the different Disney parks.
Right. And this is the part where I put in the asterisk that I'm in no way a Disney parks expert. I just kind of love to talk about them and I love to go and experience them. So inevitably, one of you listening has been more times than me and knows more than me and will shake your head at something I say that is incorrect. But I'm still just thrilled to go visit them and talk about them.
Well, considering Josh is a young plebeian who has only been to Disneyland, you are an expert in Josh's opinion. So that's why you're going to be Disney correspondent, Tony.
I'll take it.
So what was the first, can you tell me the first time that you went to a Disney park and what Disney park it was?
Both of my parents are from Southern California. So growing up, I lived in Texas, and we would go out to California for summers to visit both sets of grandparents and aunts and uncles. So I couldn't tell you when I started because it was at such a young age I probably don't remember. There are photos of me at Disneyland which I don't remember. So there's no telling what my first trip was. I'd have to call up my parents and kind of ring them. But I'd been going, most summers all the way through, fourth or fifth grade. I lived in Texas and then I lived in Hawaii. But in both places, we went back to California for vacations when people weren't visiting us in Hawaii. So pretty regularly, maybe yearly, semi-yearly, I went out to Disneyland. And so that's the only park I had ever been to all the way until, after college. So Disneyland was kind of, just like you, was the only park I'd ever been to. Kind of my home park just by nature of all my extended family living in that area.
So Disneyland is your home park. Do you have any memorable experiences from that park? Like something that resonates to you even now from your childhood about being at the parks?
The most to the core memory I have is, I guess because it's like a multi-sensory memory, is the Disneyland Electric Parade. Just hearing the opening notes of the Baroque hoedown things, it still kind of does the hair standing on your neck feeling, still kind of transports you. They brought it back in various different incarnations at both parks. But something about just the beginning and opening notes of that song is, kind of drilled down into me to give that that just pure happy feeling.
Nice. So after college, after college, I assume you went to World.
Yes. So yeah, it wasn't until 2008 I went out. I just, as I was going through college for design stuff, towards the end of it, I was kind of getting into the kind of theory of theme park design and how theme parks work and how certain things were designed to manufacture happiness. And these theme parks are designed in such a way that everyone should feel like they have their own unique, special experience, but that everyone have the same unique, special experience so that it feels great to them. And so I was kind of obsessed with different theme park layout and this kind of manufactured environments. And so towards the end of college, I was reading a lot of books about theme park design and studying color theory and all kinds of architecture theory about the way things were built. So I was like, you know what? I've never been out to World, which is, after they learned a lot of things they learned at Disneyland and they had a lot more room and more money, they went and manufactured this whole thing. And they had, different ideas for Epcot at the time and all these other ideas circling. But it was kind of a thing you have to do as a budding theme park nerd. Mm-hmm. So I went out there, I guess it was 2008, and I went again in 2009 and actually got engaged out there in 2008. And so we went back in 2009, and then I started wanting to go back, so I found excuses to start running the Disney marathons. So I'd kind of been back to Disney World at least once a year since then.
Nice. So basically once a year back to Disneyland since 2009.
To World. Yeah.
I'm sorry, to World.
Yeah, Disneyland trips kind of get peppered in every other year.
Whenever there's work.
Yeah, D23 or somebody, a work trip to anywhere in California is a good excuse to kind of mosey down there. But yeah, pretty consistently I've been going to World since, 08, 09.
They need to let you comp a D23 work trip for next year.
I'm working on it.
Be like, hey, I have to go. There's a lot of design.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool design stuff and things that I need to watch. There's merchandise I need to look at.
Well, I mean, if you go to that, because they have that big merch panel, that's the first thing of D23.
Yeah,
go through all of the new stuff, and then they give you the samples of all the new stuff.
Yeah, I went to I guess how many D20 two D23s ago. I used to do some freelance for Disney Parks merchandise, so some of my merchandise was in that panel. So that was the first thing I went to, and they showed some of my products on the slideshows, and so I was very excited about that.
That's awesome. So what's that like when you're like, you know what? I've worked for a little bit of Disney. I've been going to the parks for years. And then you get to go and see some of your merchandise, something that you created at a Disney park. What's that like?
Yeah, it's still the strangest, best feeling to see someone like just wearing a shirt. You're like, oh, I did that shirt. And so yeah, I did a lot of freelance design for them. It's been a few years because the way they restructured the way they do freelancers and everything, all their creative team has moved, and that's a more boring story that I don't have all the answers to. But for a while there, I worked on several of their large, merchandise programs. For the big one I started with was 28 in Maine, and then I did a lot of stuff for Epcot States, and I did a lot of stuff for Pandora World of Avatar. So there was a lot of opportunity to see the things that I had made, and they were becoming more frequent as they were coming out. So it was just, I still from time to time see people in a thing. I'm like, oh, I did that one. I did that one. So it's a fun game I like to play.
Yeah, I remember because like when we were at D23, it was like almost the March Madness type of thing.
Oh yeah,
that
March.
had.
Yeah, I had done the March Magic.
March Magic, yeah, and I think there were a couple people wearing one of your shirts there, and you were like, "I did that one."
It's still fun.
Oh man, that's like a fun bingo. It's like go to the park and just be like, do. Up, that's me.
That's me.
So, what was your first Disney park outside of the U.S.?
So that was my first Disney park outside of the U.S. So I got married in 2009, and we had talked about going to Japan as kind of a honeymoon, and we wanted to kind of wait a little bit longer to save up some money and kind of get some friends to go with us for part of the trip. Just because traveling internationally is kind of better with a small group.
Yeah.
So we went out to Tokyo in 2010. And so we were going out to Tokyo for 7 or 8 days, and then we were going to go over to take the train to Mount Fuji and climb Mount Fuji and then go to Kyoto. And so there was a group of 4 of us, and I was like, you know what, I'm demanding we do Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea for at least 2 of the days. And all the other people that were going with me like know me, and so they tolerate that, and they were like, you know what, it'll be fun. It's hard. I thought I was going to have more of a fight to get these people to spend 2 of their days of vacation at Disney parks, and they're flying halfway around the world, but everyone went and everyone loved it.
So going from 2 parks in the United States over to Tokyo Disney, and I assume Tokyo Disney Sea as well.
Yes.
So going over there to those 2 parks, what was it like? Was it more of a culture shock when you go over there, or was it still like, you know what, it doesn't matter, I'm in the heart of Japan, like I'm in like basically like the heart of Tokyo, but Disney is Disney. Like what was that like?
Yeah, like it's weird how the same but different. Disneyland in particular, Disney Sea is a whole different beast. But Tokyo Disneyland is, like the Magic Kingdom. We, look through in a strange mirror. So they have a lot of the same lands. They have some of the same rides. They have a lot of things that are comfortable and familiar enough that you're like, I know if I walk this way, I'm probably going to hit, Tomorrowland first, and things like that. They don't have a Frontierland. They have a Western Land, I believe, which is a little different. So a lot of the things are the same. And all of a sudden you'd hear announcements in a different language or smell, curry popcorn or just something out of the blue. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm in Japan. That is. And they take, the love of Disney to the next level, too, where everyone's got a shirt on, is wearing the ears, has a backpack with a Mickey keychain dangling off of it with, Donald's shoes. Like they are well ahead of us in the merchandise game over there.
Well, because they have those little, or from what I've been watching on the YouTubes, they have the little like holder things for their cards that they get, like for their Fast Pass and everything.
Yeah,
like the annual passes, like the little it's almost like a purse.
Yeah, they're able to merchandise everything really well. When I was there, the big thing that was going on was the Duffy the Disney Bear.
Oh yeah, Duffy.
Which is the little bear that you dress buy little outfits for. There were like little seats around the park for you to set your Duffy on to take pictures, like Duffy photo spots. And people had them in baby carriers, and that was the biggest culture shock, was just the Duffy extravaganza that was going on over there.
You go to Disneyland to see a bunch of Mickey Mouse, and it's just all a bear.
Yeah,
not even Pooh, just a bear.
But yeah, they and like I said, they're characters over there. That was the other thing that was I was kind of taken aback by. Whereas in the the local U.S. parks, you set your times for your meet and greets, or you go wait in a little line. That's 20, 30-minute line. Kind of the only way you're going to get to see the characters. When we were in Tokyo, they just kind of showed up out of backstage and were walking around, kind of unaccompanied. They didn't have handlers, and they would walk around and kind of poke people and generally have fun. But there was never really a line that gathered around some of them. There were obviously meet and greets still kind of stationed around the park like normal, but you'd be just turning the corner and kind of random characters, like Jiminy Cricket would pop out, and he would just kind of run around and take some pictures and disappear again. And that was one of the things I remember being very taken aback by. I was like, is no one getting in line for Jiminy Cricket? I'm just going to go. And I was like, all right, I'm here.
Gavin would have died. He'd be like, Jiminy Cricket, and just would have like fallen, and just he would have been gone. We never would have seen him again.
Yeah, I remember I saw Jiminy Cricket, and I think Robin Hood was out, and Horace Horsecollar, like just really deep down the list of characters who you don't see very often in the U.S. parks.
So what was it like going from like so you described Tokyo Disney as kind of like a Magic Kingdom-esque park. What was it like when you went over to see?
It's a different world. Like, it's just stunning. And then you talked about the Disney parks. I guess we were talking before a little bit about how just the attention to detail that they have at the parks over there just seems a little bit higher than it is in the U.S. parks. I believe those parks are technically licensed. Disney has final say in everything. They're licensed by like the Oriental Land Company, or a company that licenses and spends money on the park, and then Disney controls everything still. But the money being spent seems higher. Like, just the back of every ride, the corner, every corner is just kind of treated, gets all the treatment, gets painted, everything's super nice. So walking into Disney Sea, there's the giant volcano in the middle of the park, surrounded by a big lagoon, and you're just not prepared because you walk like into Disneyland so many times and into Disney World so many times, it still gets to you. So like, get close to Main Street and you're like, there's a castle, there's a castle. It's got the same joyous feeling, and I got that at Tokyo Disneyland. You're like, oh, I'm going to see what their castle looks like. Everything's going to be slightly different, but like, you have no idea what to expect at Disney Sea, and there's volcanoes and Jules Verne looking machines on one side and what looks like 1900s New York on the other side, and you just don't know what to make of it. You don't know which direction to go. You don't can't start at Tomorrowland. You just kind of, well, let's just take it as it comes.
Yeah, because they have that big, the Columbia, that big like cruise liner, don't they?
Yeah, they have that, and there's, I think we went to a bar, a restaurant on there. Went to like the Roosevelt Lounge. Because they're also, it's set up like ports instead of lands. So there's like the Mysterious Island and the Mediterranean Harbor Port, like Port Discovery, I think was one of them. And then there's the American Waterfront, which has like all the old-timey New York stuff. And I think, they're adding another port, is what they announced pretty recently, which will be my excuse to go back, because it's going to have like, I think Frozen, Tangled, and Peter Pan stuff at this next port.
Oh, nice.
So
like
whatever.
a Neverland type port, or like a fantasy port. Yeah,
kind of a fantasy land, for lack of a better way to theme it. So that'll be a reason for me to go back when they finish that. There's plenty of reasons, but that'll be like a nice, clean reason.
Yeah, like that's like one of my reasons to go, because I want to see that freaking volcano.
Yeah.
Like does that erupt every hour?
It was pretty random. It may have been every hour. I just kind of was taking everything in, so I didn't know what to make of anything, because I had done a little bit of homework back then, but it wasn't. I kind of wanted to just take it as it came and not worry about like what I was missing, and focus kind of on what I could do. That was really, really fun.
So was 2010? Was that the only time that you've been, or have you been back since?
That's the only time I've been to Tokyo. Yeah, it's been a while. It's like I said, it's kind of a haul to get out there, and it's going to cost you some money and some time, and you want to go all the way out to Tokyo. You want to kind of stay longer. So it'll be a thing eventually. I've got 2 kids now, so when they get a little older, maybe we'll treat them.
Take everybody out there. Yeah, maybe a 2 weeks.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how. I got to learn how school vacation works again. With my oldest is in kindergarten, so I'm like, I can't just like take you whenever I want now. You have attendance and truancy and all that fun stuff. So we'll figure that out.
Oh man, sounds like summer. Yeah, but that'll be a fun one. It's like, where did you go for summer vacation? I went to Japan.
Yes.
And just like drop the mic for everyone who's like, well, we went to Dallas to Six Flags. Be like,
yes.
well, I went to Disneyland in Japan. Yep. So
Dad loves Mickey Mouse, so we go where he lives.
Do you remember it being relatively pricier there? Because I mean, I know just like Disneyland and Disney World, they keep they ratchet up the price every like what seems like a fortnight. But like, do you remember it being? Because I mean, this was 2010, so I mean, it's been a hot minute. But do you remember it being really expensive, or was it cheap, comparable?
I remember it was kind of comparable. I remember just everything surrounding it, like the food and like just trying to get there. I know that the hotels were prohibitively expensive, so we ended up, staying at a different hotel in Tokyo and taking the train to get there. And the food, I remember being a little bit more expensive. I don't really recall tickets and merchandise as much, but it seemed, all in all, I was in vacation mode, so you just kind of hemorrhage money anyway.
Did you take that cool Disney train with the mouse-eared windows?
The mouse-eared handles, yeah, I did.
See, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's a reason to go right there just for the Mickey Mouse train.
When you take the train in Tokyo, a lot of the stops they're color-coded and they have names and they have them written in Japanese and in English. And then each of the stops has kind of a little 3 or 4 or 5 note jingle, so that even if you can't see the sign or can't read the sign, you kind of, as you take the train more often, you kind of recognize what stop you're at by it'll stop and it'll go do 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 do, and you're like, oh, this is that one stop we were at yesterday with the restaurant. But I don't remember the exact song it played, but the stop in front of Tokyo Disneyland was a Disney song, and I was just like, awesome. That was kind of the beginning of the excitement.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So after Tokyo Disney, what was the next park that you attended?
That was 10. In 2011, went out with my wife to Europe, and we were like, we want to travel a little bit more before we thought about, starting a family and doing all that. We had been to Asia, and neither of us had really been, I think she had been to Europe when she was younger, but as adults, we hadn't really been out to Europe, and we were like, what we want to do, just kind of the basic tourist stuff, like Rome and Paris. And so we were like, we're going to go to Italy and Paris. And so I was kind of like poking her. I was like, we're going to be all the way in Paris. Let's just mosey over to Disneyland Paris, which is just kind of 30 minutes outside of Paris. And by this point, she was my wife and kind of knew how I was, and just, let's do it. So she was all in on that as well. So it was 2011. I went out to Paris.
Oh man. So 2011 in Paris. What was your, so you had been to, all of your continental parks, you've been to Tokyo Disney and Sea. So then you go to Euro Disney. And at that time, cuz that was 2011, so Disney hadn't basically bought that park back yet.
No, yeah, they changed, it was Disneyland Paris by that point. I think they changed that in 2002 or whenever they changed that. So it was definitely Disneyland. I never got to go to Euro Disney when it was named that, but it was Disneyland Paris. And so I kind of didn't, I'm an over planner when I go to Disney World. I kind of try to do too many things. And so I was like, we've got all the way over here to Paris. Let's just buy the tickets and kind of go. So I didn't really know what to expect there either. And their magic, I don't know if it's called the Magic Kingdom. You get that same kind of feeling, like I was explaining, when you're walking down their main street. I think they have 2 arcades that walkway style arcades, not like video game arcades, that kind of run parallel to Main Street. So as you're approaching it, I guess I can back up one step. As you're approaching Disneyland Paris, the entrance to the park, you have to walk underneath the hotel to get into it. So the hotel, I don't know if it's called the Disneyland Paris Hotel, sits right at the front gate and faces into the park. And so immediately you're kind of like, oh, this is very different. And then after you emerge from the tunnel underneath the hotel, you get the kind of, okay, there's the train station. This is the stuff I'm more familiar with. And so it starts to kind of click in again. So I remember that being all kind of the same. And then their castle is a very, very different castle, because I guess when they were building that park, they were like, we're in Europe. Everybody they trip over castles. Everyone here lives in castles. So their castle is a little more whimsical and the foliage around it is kind of cool square trees, like they look like the background cells from Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
So it was very different.
Nice, and they have like that bigger Jules Verne. Is it bigger than C? Because I know C's got the lagoon and everything. That's
Yeah,
very
C's got the
Verne.
lagoon, and they have the Journey to the Center of the Earth ride, which is like their big pinnacle ride with the biggest animatronic inside it, and they have a Nautilus there. And so, like, I guess they have the Jules Verne area in Paris because they don't have a Tomorrowland. It's called Discoveryland, and it's kind of all. I guess it was originally a little bit more Jules Verne than it ended up being, but they have like the big floating dirigible. They have a Nautilus that you can walk through. Their Space Mountain was like Space Mountain Mission 2. I forget what it was called.
Electric Spacealoo.
Electric Spacealoo, yes. So they have that. Their Space Mountain, like you can see it goes outside of the building and goes back in. And as you're walking through the queue, there's all these different cool powder keg stuff and like things that feel a little bit less spacey and more like, Jules Verne, I guess is the way you were describing it.
Do they still have the like the oh shoot, like what was the like from the Earth to the Moon where they make that big like gun, like the big cannon and shoot it off?
Yeah, that's the kind of what shoots you outside the.
So is that what shoots you out through Space Mountain?
Yeah, that would.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really cool looking.
See, that seems really cool. So again, gonna ask you on this one. How would you compare, that park to, what you had been, used to, or what you had seen already?
Yeah. This one has because it's the Magic Kingdom-ish, a more different Magic Kingdom. It's pretty comparable. I mean, not in size, but like just in your experience of the park. Like I said, the you walk in and they have Discoveryland, but Tomorrowland essentially is to your right, and it kind of follows the same pattern that you're used to in the other parks that you've been at. They have one thing I did notice when we were with my wife, because we came from the domestic parks and in Tokyo, where everybody's wearing matching shirts and Mickey hats and kind of merged out a little bit. And so we had on Mickey shirts, I think. I don't think we were matching, but we both had on Disney shirts. And we got into the parks and kind of were like, the only people wearing Mickey shirts are kids for the most part. Like, what's everyone? And I was like, oh, we're in Paris. Everyone is cooler than us. So everyone was wearing really nice clothes and walking around just being cool and Parisian, doing the same thing, putting their hands up on the teacups, all the same stuff. They weren't acting cooler. They were just dressed like they were in Paris. I was like, oh, okay, this is a little different. I wasn't prepared for that.
Nice. So nobody just... I'm sure there was the one stereotype that was in the teacup with a beret and a baguette and, his little mustache, like smoking black. This is nothing but tea. It is not even good tea. Just one of those guys, because there always is.
Yeah, and in Paris, I have a little bit more of a fresh memory, because I actually recently just went to Disneyland Paris again this year. I went out to London to go to RTX London, and I was like, work's gonna pay to fly me all the way out to London. And the same kind of thing when I went to Tokyo. I was like, you know what? I can get on a little train. It's like a 2-hour ride from London to Paris. I'll just pop over there for a day after. And so I kind of was mentioning it to some people I worked with. I was like, hey, I'm doing this. I know you guys are all the way out there. And they were all planning on going on their vacations. But like, to my surprise, like 5 or 6 people jumped real quick on. They're like, I'll go. So we got a small group of us to go out to there again. And like I said, it had been from, 2011 to 2018. So a lot was the same, and then a handful of things had changed. I'm still a bad luck charm in that both times I've gone, their version of the Haunted Mansion, which is the Phantom Manor, which is supposed to be amazing, has been closed for refurbishment. So I've still I'm 0 for 2 on Phantom Manors. But I did get to do the Ratatouille ride, which was opened over there, which is totally different kind of ride vehicle and experience than I'd got to do before. And I got to do a couple of things I didn't get to do the first time. So I'm very lucky in that I got to go there twice so far. And there were a few more people wearing Mickey shirts this time, I will say, than there were.
That's good.
2011. They've kind of upped their game a little bit.
They were all tourists.
Yes.
None of them were Parisians. They were it was like English people.
The one that was consistent that was somewhat frustrating, and maybe it's because of the times that I've gone, I haven't really paid attention, is that their park hours are very kind of like
Yeah, I've heard that like if stuff starts closing down at like 7.
Yeah, it opens, like the park, I believe, opened at 10, which is real weird. Like I said, I'm usually like, we'll get there 30 minutes before rope drop and we'll get there early. And sometimes you have early magic hours. So in Florida, you're sometimes getting ready at 6:30 a.m. to get to the parks by 7:30 so that you can run to something. And so I was with people and I was like, we're going to have to go early. And I was looking up the hours and I was like, oh, I guess it opens at 10. I guess we can get breakfast and then go. And so we got there and I was like, okay, we're at 10. And the park closed at 8. The main Disneyland Paris closed at 8, and I was like, wow, that's early. Yeah, because in Disneyland especially, that park stays open till like 2 a.m. sometimes, which is crazy. And even in Florida, the park stays open till 11-ish, 10 or 11. So I was like, okay, 8 o'clock, that's fine. And then the gate 2 they have over there, the second park, the Walt Disney Studios park, closed at 6:30. And I was just, well, then how are we going to do that? I got to squeeze in 2 parks between 10 and 8, and one closes at 6:30. So that was the biggest culture shock. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing or a saving money thing, probably somewhere in between the two. But it was very strange to have a park that was closing at 6:30, try to squeeze all those rides in.
Well, it sounds like they want you to go multiple days.
Yeah, I mean, that's also probably part of it. And their hotels are also prohibitively expensive to stay in. Ringing in at, I don't remember, the lowest one was like 500 something a night. Or like, I think they have 3 or 4 hotels out there. And so we stayed in Airbnb in Paris and kind of took an Uber, French Uber. I think it's still just an Uber over there. And I was like,
It's a Fruber.
An Uber. Uber.
Is it Uber?
Uber.
And a German Uber is a Gruber. Hans. So so what about prices there? So like I would assume it would be cheaper since it's only open for like less than 12 hours.
Yeah, I do remember prices being cheaper when we were looking up tickets. And I don't remember the first trip. This most recent trip where I was looking, but I ended up going with one of my coworkers used to work at Disney World, and he was able to get us passes in this time. So we lucked out in that regard. But looking at tickets were less, I remember, than day tickets now at Disney. At both parks are like over $100 or at about $100. I think I remember day tickets being in like the $60 range for studios and $70 to $80 range for park.
Oh, see, that's not bad Disneyland. At all.
And then everything did start closing early, like just random food carts. It was hard to find snacks after like 4 p.m. All the snack carts were closed. Main Street was open, but in any of the other lands, when you tried to go to a restaurant after like 4:30, things were just closed. And rides in Fantasyland started closing at 6:30. I think the train, we wanted to ride the train. It closed at like 5:55. So you just were kind of wandering from thing that was open to thing that was open, trying to squeeze them in.
That's weird. That just sounds bizarre.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So yeah, I guess the first time I went, it was not being run by Disney Parks, and they bought it back in like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there was a noticeable difference to me. They were probably spending more money on things, but I had fun both times. I'll complain about the hours, but I had fun both times.
Well, hopefully next year, because they already announced RTX London 2019. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what they've officially.
Because I think they sent Guardian applications out.
Okay.
So I think it's confirmed because I know they did Guardians applications for RTX, and then but I think before that they did London ones. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I mean they're doing RTX applications, so that's a pretty good sign.
If that happens,
they're gonna have it.
I'll try to finagle another one. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. See if you can stow in somebody's luggage, and make it up there.
Gotta go.
And then maybe you can get to your Phantom Mansion. Yes,
that's. I've got to. Can't go 3 times and not have it. I'll just have to stay until it reopens.
Sorry, I can't leave. I have to stay, guys. You'll be there. What if it's never open? It's just that it was open once, and everybody talked about how nice it was, and it's always been closed for repair, so no one's ever ridden it, but everyone just thinks it's really nice.
I would be the biggest hoax to pull on me. The rest of the world.
That's just where they keep all of the Christmas decorations and everything. They just keep it in the Phantom Mansion.
I hope not, because it looks so pretty.
Okay, so you've been to everywhere. So how did you get out to Hong Kong?
So the job I had before I worked at Rooster Teeth, I was designing watches for various different companies, licensed companies. I did Disney watches back then as part of a licensed company, and I did Warner Brothers, I did Harry Potter and Mattel Barbie stuff. So I was doing lots of watches, and like a lot of watch manufacturing and factories are in China. And there's a watch fair that happens every year in Basel, Switzerland, and one that happens every year in China. And I'd worked there for a couple of years and kind of finally convinced them to send me out to Hong Kong to the watch fair in 2012. So it was, 3 years in a row. It was like Tokyo, Paris, Hong Kong. So I knocked 3 of them out pretty quickly. And I think at a certain time...
You were getting the most out of your passport.
Yeah, and I don't remember which of the years it was. I think, I guess it would have been 2011 to 2012, because the D23 was in 2011, and I had gone out to run the marathon in Florida in 2011 also. So in 2011, I had gone to Disneyland, Disney World, and Paris, and then immediately after to Hong Kong. So in that like year and a half, I had knocked out, 4 of them at the time, 4 of the 6 at the time.
Jeez.
It was a good run right before I had kids. So yeah, Hong Kong is one of the last parks I had visited before my wife and I had our first child. So I was still kind of trying to squeeze in all the magic before all my money went to children and all my time was kind of devoted to figuring out how to dad. So yeah, I was able to be sent out to Hong Kong on a work trip. And and as you do when someone else pays for you to fly halfway around the world, you kind of milk it and jump over to the closest Disney park. Oh, so I went to that one by myself, which was kind of a different experience.
So was this one of your first parks by yourself? I mean, like out of the I guess this would have been like the first one out of the country by yourself.
Yeah, because I've never gone explicitly to another park by myself. I'll end up wandering for half a day or a day by myself in land or world. If people want to go back and take naps, or everyone wants to go home early, or I want to go early. Like I've been wandering for hours by myself at parks, but this was the first full day at a park by myself that was kind of planned to be by myself, because I was only there with a couple of work friends who were not as much into it, and they were flying back and going on a different vacation, and I couldn't have expected them to join along, but I was totally thrilled either way. So it was a first full day experience in a park by myself in another country. It was fun.
So I know when we go into Disneyland, you turn that corner and you walk down that area, you go through the security thing, and then you make it into, like, you get your tickets, and then you make it into that big circle area that separates
the hub.
The hub, yeah. So you got DCA, and then you've got, what's the other? Is it Magic? They don't call it Magic Kingdom. What do they call it?
In Disneyland? Yeah, just Disneyland. Yeah, Disneyland.
Oh, just Disneyland? Okay. So you got Disneyland, and then you got DCA. So, and then when you go in the world, like, the moment that you know that you're in there, that you hit the big, like, parking area with the
like you see the Magic
like Disney World sign. So you know you're in there. When you go into Tokyo Disney and see, like, you get off the subway, and for Tokyo Disney, you get off the subway and you walk straight in, right?
Yeah, there's kind of another like little hub between Tokyo Disney Sea and Tokyo Disneyland. They have kind of like the entrance to their, Disney Springs, Downtown Disney shopping, Expiry, I don't remember what it's called, off to the left, and there's their big giant World of Disney store. I think it's shaped like a suitcase there. But yeah, you're kind of, as soon as you get off the train, you're thumped right down into the middle of there's music playing, you're there. No missing that. And then
when you go through, sorry, go ahead.
And in Paris is the same. It's the same.
Yeah, you go underneath the hotel.
Yeah, underneath the hotel, but you're walking distance from Disneyland Paris and Walt Disney Studios, which is their second park. You're kind of right in between the two. You can walk between them both, which you need to be able to because the park closes at 6:30, so you need to be able to hustle over there. And yeah, in Hong Kong, I think it only opened. It didn't open that too early after I got there. I don't remember what year it opened. I should probably have looked that up before I did this, but it hadn't been open for very long, so I was very excited to make my way over there.
So what was that like? So we have all of these special entrances that you go in. What's it like going through into Hong Kong? So it's like you just get off where you're supposed to go and you just walk straight in, like the hub area. Like is Hong Kong Disney 2 parks, or is that just one park?
It's just the one, and I took a train to get there as well. So I emerged out of the ground, and you're kind of in that what I would call the hub of outside the parks, and it's a much smaller park. So looking here, it opened in 2005, so it had been.
Yeah, I was looking it up as well.
Yeah, it's a much smaller park, and even as I was going there, they were in the middle of their first expansion where they were adding, 3 little lands to it. But you immediately know it's a smaller park when you approaching it and you're looking at the map. And they've expanded once, and I think they're due for another expansion. They announced like a Frozen area and a Marvel area are coming, like by 2021 and 2023. So I think they opened that park, and it was kind of the same way when studios opened, where it was a little bit smaller than it should have been, but it was open and they need revenue to build more things. So that park, by 2023, it looks like it'll be one to contend with for all the things that they've been adding over there.
Nice. So what was that like at Hong Kong Disney? So you're by yourself at this park. So what was it like, young Tony just wandering around aimlessly at Hong Kong Disney?
That one was so even at Tokyo Disney, obviously people were speaking a lot of Japanese, and in Paris speaking a lot of French, but it was way more of a blended mix of English and the other language on most of the signage. And in Hong Kong, there was a lot more of people speaking Chinese, Cantonese and Mandarin, and it was just a little bit, not hard to navigate at all by any means, but you just noticed it a little bit more. You were kind of a little bit more immersed in the culture of the place that you were in. So that was slightly different. And when you walk in and you look at the castle as you're walking down their main street, there's mountains. Like you're in Hong Kong has a lot of mountains, so there's mountains behind the castle, which is a thing that I wasn't used to seeing. It's a very foreign looking experience. And I think they're getting a new castle too. It's part of what they're doing. They're redoing their castle.
Contend with Shanghai.
Yeah, Shanghai is really brought in a lot. They put down the big guns in Shanghai.
So Shanghai's your next one. That's the last one that you got to get to until
presumably, yeah.
Disney Mars comes out.
So yeah, like Hong Kong. I'm trying to remember some of the other unique experiences. One of the unique experiences I had was like their jungle cruise, which is the boat ride in most of the adventure lands at the various parks. There are 3 different lines you can get in. You can get in English, a Mandarin, and I believe a Cantonese line, because the jokes have to be told in the language.
Yeah, you can't.
I wrote all 3 though, just for the experience.
So were the queues pretty much still there? You have ridden Jungle Cruises throughout. Was it still like the same queues each time?
Yeah, it's mostly the same. There's a lot of, it's like that bizarro feeling where you're like, I've been here, but I haven't been here. Jungle Cruise is one of the ones that's kind of the same. And I'm getting Tokyo and Hong Kong mixed up, but one of them has a little bit more. I think it was Hong Kong. Has a little bit more like mysticism involved in it, and spells and things like that. And like there's a fire god and an ice god. There's a little bit more.
That sounds awesome. Stuff.
And in Tokyo, their Tower of Terror is kind of it's not that same hotel. There's a hotel owner, Mr. Hightower, that's collecting oddities in his hotel. So the backstory is definitely not the Twilight Zone type thing. So you'll go to the different parks, and there's some things that are just, this is Peter Pan. Peter Pan is going to be the same here and there and everywhere else. And there's some things that you kind of don't know what to expect when you go in, which is kind of a good feeling. Like, usually this turns left and here it turns right. As simple as that to as complex as just, oh, now we've gone underwater in this ride that doesn't go anywhere near underwater in the other rides. That's strange.
So I mean, this doesn't really apply to the two to Tokyo and Hong Kong, just because I mean you haven't been there recently. But since the addition of like a lot of like the Marvel and the Star Wars and everything like that, have you seen? Because I mean, obviously Disneyland has changed tremendously since acquiring those two. I mean, they're getting the Marvel land and the Star Wars land, and World's getting their Star Wars land soon. But there's a bunch of Marvel stuff that's east of the Mississippi that they still have to work out. So
Yeah,
when you went
the
to
Star Wars footprint is definitely the one I noticed the most, just because of the legal battles going on in the background for all the Marvel things. But just Star Wars merchandise, because I'm a merchandise person, so I start to notice at the very beginning when that happened, Star Wars stuff was immediately, it always already kind of been there because of their Star Tours ride, but they just doubled, tripled it up real quick in every corner of the park. And all the experiences where they have Star Wars nights now at Disney World, Hyperspace Nights, or whatever it's called. I went to that this year as well when I was out in Orlando for a different convention, where it's kind of like a mini Star Wars convention where people are in costume. They change all the menus at all the restaurants to Star Wars related. I had pepperoni shaped like Yoda somewhere. There's lightsaber churros and dark side drinks and light side drinks. So that they found a good way to. And they've been doing this a lot with plus up all these ticketed events that they have, where they have Not So Scary Halloween Party and Very Merry Christmas. Now they have Star Wars events they can layer in and charge more for. And that's actually the past 2 years, and this coming in 2019, going out to run the Star Wars Marathon or the Star Wars Half Marathon out in Florida. And so they found another theme for a marathon they can charge for and different things like that. So they found good ways to sneak all these properties in, and there's people that complain that there's too many IPs going into Disneyland and World and not as much like original IP anymore. But they've got them and they're going to use them. So
exactly, it's like if they make money, why stop? It's like you don't be like, okay, Star Wars, and then just no more of it.
Yeah,
you don't do that. It makes tons of money.
We've got enough.
Like literally billions of dollars.
We've got enough money.
Oh, so yeah, so enough money.
So yeah, my repeating experience, like I said, I've been back, every year in Florida since 2009 to do either the marathon weekend, which is usually in January, until pretty recently we started doing the Star Wars marathon weekend, which is in April. So that's another thing at some point we'll have to cross off my list, is that I've only done these Disney runs in Florida, and I know they have
one in Anaheim.
Yeah, I haven't done anything out in California. And Disneyland Paris and I believe Tokyo both have half marathons now that happen around them. So there's another part of the Disney experience. I gotta have more things to shoot for.
So you were recently in Disneyland Paris. Was it that same? Because I know in America, Star Wars, Marvel, really big. Star Wars not as big in some of the Asian countries. What was it like in Paris? Was there a lot of Disney? And I mean, was there any Disney in Disneyland? Was there a lot of like Marvel and Star Wars? Like, was there more?
Yeah, they have a lot of Marvel. Again, it's merchandise stuff, and like we went to one of the restaurants and we had it was like a Spider-Man burger that was like the bun was red and it had, stringy cheese that was like webs, and it came with, I think I had a Hulk custard. Like
that's awesome.
They found their ways to, like I said, fit the theming in everywhere that they can, that they legally can so far. And I think that eventually it'll creep its way into everything else.
Nice. Now, Tony, so big fan of Disney, but how do you like anime?
I watched a lot of anime in college, and then at Rooster Teeth we have, Ruby, which is kind of our biggest property right now. That's kind of a juggernaut, and we're coming soon to 2019 Genlock. So a lot of people at my office are really into anime, and they've been kind of telling me all these different anime I need to watch, and I've got this list of anime shows that I need to watch just kind of building up on me. I can only watch so much at a time, and I've got to like find out where to watch it all, and I've got a lot of homework to do in the anime department. But I do like what I've seen.
Well, I can help you with your homework to do in the anime department because our good friends over at Funimation are giving all of the ASP listeners a free 2-week subscription to Funimation now. So all you have to do is click on the little link in our bio, and it actually takes you to the page, and you can get your 2 free weeks of anime, and then after that it's only $5.99 a month, which is cheaper than Crunchyroll and cheaper than High Dive and all these other like streaming places. So $5.99 a month, you get your subbed anime, because there's some people that think only anime is only meant to ever be in Japanese. Or if you're like me, you can watch the dubbed anime as well. So, if you would like to do something other than try and read your anime, you can actually get your subbed and your dubbed anime with Funimation. So you can watch stuff like Fairy Tail and My Hero Academia, one of my personal favorites, Full Metal Panic, Robotics Notes, all kinds of great anime. Again, all you have to do is click on the link in the bio that takes you to the site, get your 2 free weeks of anime, only from Funimation. You should be watching.
I'm on it.
So, Tony, if you're going to take all of the Disney parks that you've been to, what's the one that you want to go back to? If I'm going to tell you, hey, tomorrow I'm going to pay for you a trip to go to whatever Disney park that you want to go to, what's the Disney park that you go to?
It's Tokyo.
It's Tokyo?
Yeah, the hype is real. It is. There's a reason, you hear everyone, because the park, there's 2 parks, and they're both so big and so well thought out that there's no way to really experience all the nooks and crannies, all the details. You'll need more than the 2 days. Yeah. I was there for 2 days. We kind of did a day at each park, but a little bit more leisurely than I would have. We were with some people that aren't Disney people, and I was kind of taking it all in. We were in the middle of a international vacation, so you're a little bit more winded than you usually are. And so I experienced a lot, but I left a lot on the table there. So that's without a doubt where I would like to go again. Pending I can't get to Shanghai in any particular way, Tokyo would be the one I would go back to.
Nice. That's the one that I'm really looking forward to myself. I mean, I've got Gavin and Charlie down in Anaheim, so I got a place to stay there. So I would just have to get the ticket out there, and everything like that. So the majority of it's taken care of. But to me, from everything that I see, Tokyo Disney's the one that's the one that's calling. Like, I would rather go to Tokyo Disney before World.
Yeah, they do. They're good at fandom. They're really good at serving fandom and knowing what fans like. And the fans of things are really good at being. As an anime fan, I'm sure you've seen the people at conventions that go the hardest are the anime fans. And, the Disney fans in Tokyo go hard. They, have the casual cosplays kind of in the parks, which you don't see as much, and they don't like you to dress up as much in Florida. But like everywhere there has kind of like the Disney bounding. They're just next level over there.
When we were last in Disneyland, I don't know, because I had never been aware of it before. Like, the first time that we went, I had no idea what the Duffy thing was. So we went, I don't remember seeing any of it. The second time that I went, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I was seeing Duffy everywhere. I was explaining to Gavin's wife, Charlie, like, what Duffy was, and because we would be in line and you'd see one of these little Japanese girls, and she's got like that big gigantic Duffy backpack that's like bigger than she is, and I'm like, that's Duffy, that one right there, that's the Duffy. So like you can see this is what it looks like, and like carrying teddy bears. Like one of them was dressed like Jack Skellington, and I was like, that probably cost you a good ton of money, and you brought it all the way over here. That's dedication.
Yeah, there's Duffy, and I think Duffy is with Shelly May, which is like the other bear, and there's a cat.
There's a cat now?
Gelatoni, I believe, is the cat's name.
Oh, I want the cat.
Yeah, it's a cat. I think it's got a little beret on. I think it's from Tokyo, though. I think it's from like Mediterranean Harbor. Cat's name is Gelatoni. It's as cute as it sounds.
That's the most adorable thing I've ever heard, Tony. Like, oh, hey, yeah, Gelatoni Tony. Oh my gosh, you need to get one.
Yeah,
that's what you need next time. That will be next year's Halloween costume. You're gonna go as Gelatoni.
Gelatoni, the very specific, name-related fun costume.
Just wear it to Rooster Teeth. See if anybody gets it, and if anybody gets it, just be like, give them $5.
None.
Like,
yeah.
No one will get it. No one will get Gelatoni.
Probably not.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, of all of the parks that you've been to, which one's your favorite? So, this is probably gonna tear a bunch of people on the West Coast up. Be like, oh, you're from SoCal, you need to be in Disneyland, blah blah blah. What's your favorite Disney park that you've ever been to?
And I'm kind of gonna fall in line. I think just because of all the touchy-feely spots in my brain that it hits, like Disneyland still feels like the park that I'm supposed to be at when I'm at Disney World. And obviously it's a lot different. There's the 4 parks and you're surrounded by it. You're staying at a hotel, riding a bus, like you're in the middle of it. I think it's just during my formative years going to Disneyland has kind of built those wires in my brain that connect to one another where you're like, okay, this is Disney, the park. And all the other parks are, and they are kind of modeled after it. So it kind of feels correct. It feels a little bit more comfortable. Even though I go to World way more frequently now, just going back to land, it's just like like I said, it's kind of feels more correct in my brain. There are definitely things, political answer that are better in World than they are in land. And there are a lot of things better in land than there are in World. So you kind of have to get the full scope of the parks to get the full experience. But it still feels more like the park to go to land.
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. By the way, I did just look up Gelatoni. You didn't you were describing it and you made it sound cute, and then I looked up a picture. It's adorable.
It's very adorable.
Oh my goodness gracious. Like, I want one. So we go Disneyland, and hopefully we will see you out there soon. I assume you're gonna. Yeah, we're gonna try and get to. So if there's anybody at Rooster Teeth listening, Tony has very important design and merchandise related events and items that can be completed if he goes to D23. And I think you should send him all expense paid for a week.
For a full week.
For a full week. Because, D23's 4 days. Is it?
Yeah, well, it's 3 and a preview day. And
the preview day and then 3, yeah. So he has to do 4 days at the convention, and that's from open to close. So he's going to be there a lot. And then he can, he needs to walk around Disneyland to see what new merch they have.
I won't say I haven't brought it up. I won't say I haven't brought it up because I have casually mentioned it.
Because where else can you find a little Cinderella's caramel glass apple drink mug thing that is full of grapes? Only at Disneyland, and it will cost you $15.
Or Disneyland or Shanghai Disneyland. I bet they have great merch over there. I could go.
Oh man. Oh, you know what? I bet they have at Tokyo Disney now. I bet you can get those $150 grapes in some ridiculously expensive crystal Disney cup now.
Yeah, they're
for $200.
The popcorn bucket game is kind of what's been spreading internationally, where there's different shaped, elaborate popcorn buckets to buy.
Oh yeah, I know. You could get this little thing in a popcorn bucket too. But I was like, I would rather have grapes than popcorn. But I will say, they were delicious grapes. They were the most expensive grapes I've ever purchased.
So you will probably
they were delicious.
D23 again. You're gonna.
Yeah, planning on it. Yes. And even it's one of those where I'm like, even if I don't go to the con, because honestly, that con was nothing for me. Because as an aspiring voice actor, there's really nothing there for me, other than getting to meet the people.
And yeah, you can meet other voice actors. You can stand in line to meet. And I think I met Ursula voice of Ursula, and so you'll just you can find all those lines and just casually drop cards.
Yeah, I guess I could do that. Oh man, I gotta go. Gonna have to expense that out. But yeah, like there's stuff like that. But I mean, the majority of the people that I met, because I mean, I met you in the park.
Right.
I met Jared Mariyama in the park. I saw Josh Gad in the park, man. It's like you see these people, like everybody's at the park and like nobody's at the convention.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're at the convention, but
all the other nerds like me are at the convention, sleeping on the floor, waiting.
Exactly. You guys are, looking at pins and stuff, and I'm not there.
We'll get
but yeah, definitely planning on being out there for D23 this year.
Excellent.
All right, so Tony, one more thing about Rooster Teeth.
Okay.
First off, I say one more thing. There's multiple. First off, what do you want to make? Like, what's going to be your new thing? Because I mean, I know you guys have done a lot of stuff. Like, you guys got the Moonball stuff, and you guys just came out with Achievement Hunter Monopoly.
Correct.
So what's like? I know you probably can't talk about it. Stuff that's on currently right now, but what's something that you want to see happen?
I think we're on track with what I want to see happen. So, like, as another thing I'm a big nerd about is I come out of one of those streetwear and sneaker nerds that collects shoes, and I used to buy and sell shoes a lot more often on eBay. And streetwear is kind of what's in fashion right now. And so we're working with like a lot of the different brands that Rooster Teeth has to kind of build these more fashionable collections that we drop kind of quarterly in the same way that some of these other streetwear brands are doing. It's just kind of trying to, like, the big goal, like the baseline is to kind of elevate the brands that we have at Rooster Teeth to that they feel like cool clothes you want to wear that happen to be, the brands that you like, as opposed to just like, oh, that shirt of that thing I like. So it's been a real, not a struggle, just kind of like a lot of learning to get to where we are, and we've hired the correct people and made the correct moves to kind of get a lot of our brands to the next level where we're just making cool stuff that you want to wear regardless of whether or not you know what Achievement Hunter is or if you know what Ruby is. Our goal is to just kind of make clothes that are like, what is that thing? I want to wear that. So that's kind of the thing that I'm most proud of. There's a map that plans, the next few steps in the process, and I'm just very excited about where this is going to take us.
Nice. So more stuff like the Jeff collection and like the Barber collection, those type of things?
Yeah. Those are the more experimental, like personality-based things that allow us to kind of branch off and do stuff that is a little bit out of the ordinary.
I will say, like, I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but whoever designed the Jeff melting popsicle shirts,
yeah, that was
the skulls. I bought one of those just because those are so freaking cool.
Yep, there's a designer named John Benson, who's one of the designers that works on my team. Like I said, the key to being successful at a job is to hire people that are more talented than you and hide behind them as they do all the good work and kind of like stand there and be like, "Hey, this is us."
So did you hire him?
I did have a hand in finding him. Yeah, he was, applied on his own, and he happened to go to school with one of the other designers we had at the time, but they didn't know each other. But his portfolio was so strong, like it was a no-brainer. And he was one of the people that I had a hand in hiring.
Nice. Well, then I'm going to say that indirectly, you helped create one of my favorite Rooster Teeth shirts.
Yes, indirectly. I'll take it.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, really, Tony, keep up the good work down there. You guys are killing it merch-wise. Rooster Teeth is just knocking it out of the park with all this stuff. I mean, you guys got freaking David Tennant and Macy Williams in Genlock.
Michael B. Jordan.
And Michael B. Jordan. I don't know why I forgot.
GQ's Man of the Year. As of today, I think they announced.
Oh, really? He made Man of the Year? That's dope. Because I think Idris made Sexiest, didn't he?
Oh, I'll go look at the list. I don't know. I don't have it up to date.
You need to get Idris next.
Yeah, that show is going to be something you're going to keep an eye on. As again, that's another thing I'm really excited about. I'll say is the places that show will take the merchandise, because mech shows are just fun, and mech show merch can be really fun. So I am excited about that as well. I've seen a little bit of it, and it's just kind of crazy. It's the good kind of crazy.
Nice. Oh, man. So, Tony, where can everybody find you social media-wise?
Twitter and Instagram are kind of the easiest, safest places. And just Tony_Simonetta, Simonetta. More active on those, kind of posting a mixture of random foods I like to try, things at Rooster Teeth, cute pictures of my children, normal everyday stuff.
Nice.
And I think I still have a website that I have not updated in a while at TonySimonetta.com that someday I will get to, as every designer says, someday I will go fix that.
Well, I mean, you've got, I mean, you have a thing you can just be like, yeah, go to roosterteeth.com, click on the merch, me.
That stuff.
That's me. You got me there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh L. Kane. You can find the podcast on Instagram at Animation Station Podcast, on Twitter at Animate Podcast, Facebook and Tumblr, Animation Station Podcast. You can find all of our episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, and our website, animationstationpodcast.com. And thanks again to Funimation for sponsoring this episode. And get yourself some free anime, guys. I mean, you get free anime, and you help the ASP. It's a win-win situation. Oh, man. So, again, thanks so much, Tony, for coming on again.
Definitely. Anytime.
It's been a while, and I was like, I like talking to you, and I still kind of like talking to you, so...
I'll try to do some more interesting stuff between now and next time.
You're good. All right, so for the Animation Station Podcast, I'm Josh.
And I've been Tony. I'm still Tony, but I've also been Tony.
Bye.
Bye.